Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andre and I'm your bookworm. And today, as you can see by the setting, I'm in a different place. I'm currently in Spain, and therefore this episode will be recorded like this. I might move around a bit because I'm holding the camera. But anyways, we're gonna review episode 8 of Lord of the Mysteries, the anime adaptation. For the ones that don't know, Lord of the Mysteries is a web novel published by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving, or the Chinese name, which is Qian Shui de Wuzei, if I pronounce that anything remotely like the real thing. But anyways, I'm reading the web novel. I've read 2 volumes already, currently reading the 3rd one, and consequently I decided to start watching the anime adaptation because it looks pretty cool and the web novel is cool, so why not? And I'm reviewing the episodes one by one. So we're currently on episode 8, but you can go back and check the reviews for all the other 7 episodes, and even for the web novel if you're keen to read it and or just know how it is. This camera will be a bit shaky and I'm just noticing this, but we're gonna roll with it. So let's get on with this episode. With episode 8, we start off with Klein realizing that he's still underleveled and that he actually needs to keep digesting his potion. He needs to actually drink the clown potion, which is sequence 8. He needs to improve so that he can find out more about those red chimneys, and also he has Mr. Isaac with him that is trying to help out in any way he can. And then at the same time, he realizes that he really needs to get those sun charms done by the mutated sacred sun emblem thingy, and for that he needs to get access to it. So he devises a plan with Mr. Isaac that eventually will run down in this episode, but later in the episode. After this scene, we basically go to the next gathering that Klein has with the 2 other members of the Tarot Club. And it's a scene pretty much just gives some more context to the viewers, which is about secret organizations, because so far we've been hearing about a couple of them, but more as we progress, it will get more and more complex in terms of the organizations, what each one of these organizations want, and what are their powers, what sequences they have, all of this. So this gathering served us as a bit of exposure to get more sense of all of those. And on top of that, we also get some information on ages and history regarding these organizations, and to realize basically that they all come from different times, and some of them are older than others, some of them have been here since the previous epoch, where others are just very recent, like 200 years they've shown up, and therefore ones will have more power than others, ones will want to achieve bigger goals than others, and there's all this complexity. After this, we basically have the start of the setup for the dock scene, which was organized by Mr. Isaac and Klein. And this is just Klein realizing that there's a kid with a journal saying that there's some problem going on the docks, and this is how he knows that it started, and that he will need to go to the Nighthawks to try and get into this case. But before that, we actually jump into a scene with Old Neil and with Mr. Haver, which is a character that has shown up once in a previous episode, and he is part of the mandated Punishers. And I think this scene was done quite well. It gave us some context about not only Old Neil and this person, but also just the relationship that Old Neil has with them, and also how Klein is introduced to them. And it's a more light scene. There's some comedy in it, but it still be able to carry some seriousness to it, because Old Neil explains that Mr. Haver, is just the last one of his group that survived and that hasn't either died for mysterious reasons or lost control due to beyond their potions. So it's a very well done scene because it gives us this balance of comedy but at the same time seriousness. Then after this, we go back to the Nighthawks, where we see Klein trying to be smart and trying to outsmart everyone, getting into that case in the docks, and at the same time try to get them to take the mutated sun emblem from the blazing sun so that he can use it later on. And he almost doesn't make it, but actually thanks to Old Neil, he makes it, and he's able to not only go to solve the case, but also take that emblem just in case there is something going wrong. Then we move on to the docks, where this haunting scenario is happening, and it was done well because again it was funny at the same time as they were trying to achieve something serious. So we saw that the haunting was created by Mr. Isaac. Klein was telling us this, but as he was doing it, the haunting was basically possessing people but making them act in non-threatening ways, let's say. So it wouldn't really hurt anyone, which shows us a bit more of Mr. Isaac, how he doesn't really want to hurt anyone, even though he has this huge power in his hands. And then we see also the Nighthawks solving it because it does indicate that Mr. Isaac simply just stopped doing the haunting. And we see them as the Nighthawks showing how to perform an exorcism in front of the lay audience that do not know anything about this. And so they are this magnificent just exorcism where they're doing all this dance and scattering all these things and then just tell the people that it is solved. And just as this scene ends, we have a brief scene with Migos, a woman who is pregnant by Levinus and that we saw in a previous episode was also involved in a ritual that somehow involves her and her baby. And this is a very brief scene. It's just her about to be trampled, but then she is saved by Mr. Haver, and Qian sees all this, and it's just coincidental, but then you at the same time realize that Mr. Haver is following her to try and figure out if there's anything related to Levinus that they haven't said anything, or that she can lead somehow to them. After this seemingly innocent appearance, we go back to Qian and to the Nighthawks. They are in the ship, and they are just making sure that everything is still fine with the haunting, so they are staying for a while, and because of that, the people in the group need to hold the mutated sun emblem one at a time for an hour before they move to the next person so that the emblem doesn't affect them. Before Qian holds this emblem, he performs a divination to try and find out who created the haunting, even though he knows perfectly well, but he needs to act in front of the Nighthawks, pretend that he doesn't know. And when he does this divination, he actually sees an inverted pyramid, and the Nighthawks indicate that that's actually from a big organization, and that's from the South Continent. It's quite powerful, and that indicates to Qian that because he is only able to divine that and not have a clear answer, then Mr. Isaac must be quite powerful, and he'll be able to divine because he is still too weak in the sequences. Which, again, pretty good. It's giving us some context regarding not only Mr. Isaac, but how distant the power difference is between Mr. Isaac and Qian, or Qian and the person that is involved with the red chimneys. But anyways, after this, Qian is able to grab the sun emblem, create 2 charms, or 2 blazing sun charms, I think that's the name, and he feels a bit safer because of this, because he now has a backup plan. He can use this in case something really bad comes up. And as if he had said this on purpose, there's something happening. Suddenly a monster shows up, and they all get into alert because this monster seems to be a Beyonder that has lost control of his powers. And so he has transformed, and he is a menace to normal people, but also to the Beyonders, and they have to stop him. And so this is pretty much the only action sequence we have in this episode, which is still pretty good. I mean, seeing Leonard, for example, use his powers as a Midnight Poet, they never really explain what his powers are, but I think they were still done very well because we can see him doing all these things very powerful, and he was probably the main person to be able to stop this Beyonder, because Old Neil did some things, Qian did some distraction, but I mean, Qian and Old Neil are not supposed to be the main actors in a fight. They are support roles. They should be at the back. And so, knowing this, I think they did the whole scene quite well. But when they find out that, or when they defeat this Beyonder, Old Neil actually finds out that the Beyonder is Mr. Haver that has lost control. And that was a very heartbreaking scene because, again, we had this context just before, in a few minutes before, saying that Old Neil had this Mr. Haver as his only friend because it was the last person from his group to have survived. And to know now that he lost control out of nowhere, because he seemed to always be good and fine and enjoying his life in his way, and all of a sudden, yeah, there's this shift, which is quite heartbreaking for Old Neil, and even for Qian, who sees this, and of course for the viewers, because we got this context and now we're getting this emotion from it. And after this, we progress to the final scene of the episode, which I thought was done brilliantly. It was such a good scene. So just for some context, we have these red and black beams all over the scene and the images, and we see Old Neil playing the piano with a song that seems very sorrowful, very sad, also at the same time a bit eerie and a bit scary. And yeah, there's just Old Neil's house, who looks very somber, very dark, and he's just playing that, and Qian is there trying to give some support, but at the same time there's not much he can do because he sees in the house that pictures of all of old Neil's friends, the whole group, and sees that old Neil kept a memento from every single person that has died, including his wife. And I think that scene was heartbreaking. It was really powerful, every single aspect of it, the music, the images, everything. And even Klein's voiceover was done really well because it wasn't constant. It was just a few words, and they were very pointed at times in the music that were in a low before the music ramped up again. So I think that was done very well. It was my favorite scene of the whole episode. So yeah, I think it was the perfect mix between sad, scary, mysterious, and of course, the web novel readers, they know perfectly well what this means for the rest of the season, but also for the viewers that haven't read this web novel, they see that something is not perfectly right because old Neil's supposed to be this very cheerful person, and it seems like it really hit him hard, and that his house has just gone, I mean, it doesn't match his personality, and so getting hit one more time with this might really make him very, very sad and might not really break him, but yeah, get to a very close breaking point. And that ends the episode. We don't have a post-credit scene. I haven't seen any of the other Old Neil mysticism lessons, but I need to watch them. But I want to know now, what did you think of this episode? Did you like it? I really enjoyed that last scene. I think it was very powerful, very well done. But I want to know what you think, so comment down below. Let me know, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, like the content. You shall be seeing me on Sundays for sure, and some Thursdays, except for these 2 weeks coming because the schedule is a bit crazy, and I will try to put things up as soon as I can, but as you know, holidays and work abroad are always chaotic in taking your schedule away. So anyways, have a good day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.